Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Jana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Sangha Bihari 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 Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradhari 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 Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Sangha Bihari 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we will start the Bhagavatam class with the verse 1, 5, 12. So, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 12. So please repeat. Naiskarunyam Api Achyutabhava Bhakchitam Naiskarunyam Yasyutabhava Bhakchitam Na Sopate Dhyanam abhadram ishvare kuta punasasvatabhadram ishvare na charpitam karma yat api akaranam na charpitam karma yat apyakaranam na skarmyamapi achyutabhava bhakshitam na sabhate jnanam alam niranjanam kuta punasasvatabhadram ishvare na shakritam karma yat apyakaranam na skarmyamapyachyutabhava bhakshitam na sobhate jnanam alam niranjanam kuta punasasvatabhadram ishvare na shakritam karma yat apyakaranam Someone wants to repeat it.
Nishkarmyamapyachyutabhava-bhajitam
Nashkarmyamapyachyutabhava-bhajitam
Nashobhate jnanam alam niranjanam
Nashobhate jnanam alam niranjanam
Kuta punasasvatabhadram ishvare
Kuta punasasvatabhadram ishvare
Nacharpitam
Naishkarmyamapyachyutabhava-bhajitam
Nashkarmyamapyachyutabhava-bhajitam
Nashobhate jnanam alam niranjanam
Nashobhate jnanam alam niranjanam
Kutha punashashvad abhadram ishvare Nacharpitam karma yadapakaranam
Nacharpitam karma yat apyakaranam.
Nashkarmyamapyachyutabhava-bhajitam
Nashobhate jnanam alam niranjanam Kuta punasasvatabhadram ishvare Nacharpitam karma yadapakaranam Naishkarmyam self-realization being freed from the reactions of fruitive work api in spite of asyuta the infallible Lord bhava conception varjitam devoid of na does not sobhate look well jnanam transcendental knowledge alam by and by niranjanam free from designations kuta where is puna again Sasvat always abhadram and congenial ishvare unto the Lord na not cha and arpitam offered karma fruitive work yat api what is akaranam not fruitive. Translation and commentary by Abhijana in the Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible God. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature if they are not utilized for devotional service of the Lord? Therefore, as referred to above, not only ordinary literatures devoid of transcendental glorification of the Lord are condemned, but also the Vedic literatures and speculation on the subject of impersonal Brahman when they are devoid of devotional service. When speculation on the impersonal Brahman is condemned on the above ground, then what to speak of ordinary fruitive work which is not meant to fulfill the aim of devotional service? Such speculative knowledge and fruitive work cannot lead one to the goal of perfection. Fruitive work, in which almost all people in general are engaged, is always painful, either in the beginning or at the end. It can be fruitful only when made subservient to devotional service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, also it is confirmed that the result of such fruitive work may be offered for the service of the Lord. Otherwise, it leads to material bondage. The bona fide enjoyer of the fruitive work is the personality of Godhead, and thus, when it is engaged for sense gratification of the living beings, it becomes an acute source of trouble. Let's read the verse again. Naiskaranyam api achyuta bhava vakshita nasobhati jnanamalam niranjanam kutapuna saspatabatramishpare nashaktikam karama yad apyakaranam. Knowledge of self-realization, even though free from all material affinity, does not look well if devoid of a conception of the infallible. What then is the use of fruitive activities which are naturally painful from the very beginning and transient by nature if they are not utilized for the devotional service of the Lord? Om Ajnana Timandasya Chansala Slakaya Saksrinalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Staptam Yena Bhutale Skram Rupgadamyam Danati Svapadam Tikam Vandyam Situ Siyuda Padkamlam Silum Pashavam Sasirupam Sarikatam Sarganaragnatam Pitam Tam Sachivam Satvetam Savadutam Paisana Saitam Sri Krishna Stanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sakalika Sri Vishakam Pitam Sa He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Chatpate Kauprisha Kaukakanta Radha Kanta Namaskate Taptakam Snakalanti Radhe Vrindavanastre Vishimana Sutadevi Panamaya Hari Priya Pankakal Privisha Kripas Nivevisha Padnapavan Vyavashnavyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasa Gaura Bhaktapinna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Krishna Padaya Krishna Vasudaya Srimati Bhakti Charishanti Namane Namo Krishna Padaya Krishna Vasudaya Srimati Bhakti Charishanti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvanti Chari Nirvishesha Srinyavati Vaskachan Shivakari Srila Prabhupada. So here we have Narada Muni pointing out to Srila Vyasadeva the defects in the compilation of all this literature. He compiled so many literatures. Of course, all the Puranas, the Mahabharata, Itihasas, epics, but yes, he points to the defects because, like last week, we have explained that most of his literature was directed to karma kanda, means how to enjoy in this world in a religious way, that or how to attain liberation, but he felt despondent, morose, despite all these achievements, all these compilations. So in this point, in this verse here, Narada Muni goes to the essence of his feeling dissatisfied. And he says, mere knowledge for Brahman is insufficient to satisfy the soul. So it's not just attaining Brahman. Brahman is the level where one stops identifying with the body. And what is a symptom of that someone is not identifying with the body anymore? Means it does not lament about what went wrong with the body, and it does not make plans for the body. And so then one becomes peaceful, and one becomes totally free from miseries. So that's this Brahman realization. But Brahman realization is not self-realization. Because Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita explains it in so many ways that then at the end of the second chapter, Arjuna has become confused because Krishna spoke about action out of duty, action, and then he speaks about renunciation. And Arjuna is asking about what should we do now? Should I renounce, give up work, or should I work? That out of duty, doing my duty, fighting or not fighting, that's the point. But Krishna says, yes, explains that even on the bodily platform, one needs to work. It's natural to work because you have even to work to maintain the body. Then on the spiritual platform, this means that the spirit soul is active by nature. And everyone serves in this world. That's one way or another. The employee serves his boss. The wife, the husband serves the wife. The parents serve the children. The man who is walking is serving his dog. Everyone is working one way or another, and that's natural. That's the activity of the soul. The soul cannot be inactive. That's what Krishna explains there. Its natural condition is to be active in this service role, and that. So in that sense, just attaining Brahman and no activity, it will not make one happy. One has to go beyond Brahman and connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's the point here, what he makes, that if this knowledge of Brahman is not connected with activities of devotional service, then it will not give us real pleasure. And that's what we want, that everyone wants pleasure. That the soul is by nature That's pleasure seeking. Ananda Pyasat, pleasure seeking. And the real pleasure is this service attitude. It's derived from this service attitude towards Supreme Personality of Godhead. By serving Krishna, the living entity enjoys. By giving enjoyment to Krishna, we are enjoying. So that's is not really explained. That was not really explained in all the compilations of Srila Vyasadeva. Although he may have hinted to it in certain Puranas and in the Mahabharata. Like in the Mahabharata you have Bhagavad Gita. It's there, but it's not really emphasized in the whole thing. Now, first I want to go back and just to get an idea of the main points made by Srila Prabhupada also in the purport of this section. So I will go to a series of verses, and we will not read the purports, but I will touch upon the most essential points he makes in the purport. And it starts at verse 154. So this is Narada Muni. He is speaking here to Srila Vyasadeva. Says, you have fully delineated the subject of impersonal Brahman as well as the knowledge derived therefrom. Why should you be despondent in spite of all of this? And then we have Srila Vyasadeva is answering, is expressing his problem of being morose and despondent. Srila Vyasadeva said, all you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all this, I'm not pacified. I therefore question you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction, for you are the man of unlimited knowledge, you two being the offspring of one who is self-born. So that's the first, that's important in our attitude towards the spiritual master, that yes, I'm not really happy in this world. There is a problem, so I want to be happy, and I'm not that. So and one approaches the spiritual master very humbly, asking him to help. That so then in the next verse, my Lord, everything that is mysterious is known to you because you worship the creator and destroyer of the material world and the maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to the three modes of material nature. Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the three worlds, and like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive super soul. Please, therefore, find out the deficiency in me, despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulations and thoughts. So that's the attitude we have to cultivate to those who are more advanced to us. And we surrender to the spiritual master or his representative and bring our problem before him. Because the spiritual master is, he knows the conclusions of the revealed scriptures and has realization how to bring them in practice. And he knows mostly the disciple, how he's situated in the modes of nature. Of course, Srila Vyasadeva it's different because Srila Vyasadeva was already on the liberated plot. The whole situation is brought forward so that Srila Vyasadeva would compile the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then Narada Muni starts replying. He said, Narada said, you have not actively broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental sense of the Lord is considered worthless. So, it's considered worthless. We see Narada Muni, he replies directly to the question of his disciple. And in two sentences, he gives the essence of his response, of the answer. And now in the next verses it's going more in detail. Yeah. So we have in this purport here, Srila Prabhupada, he gives more detailed information about our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because that's really essential in understanding this verse. So it's the eternal relation to an individual soul with the Supreme Soul Personality of Godhead is constitutionally one of being the eternal servant of the eternal Master. The Lord has expanded him as living beings in order to accept loving service from him. And this alone can satisfy the Lord and the living beings. Such a scholar as Vyasadeva has completed many expansions of the Vedic literature ending with the Vedanta philosophy, but none of them had written directly glorifying the personality of Godhead. Thrice philosophical speculation even on the transcendental subject of the absolute have very little attraction without directly dealing with the glorification of the Lord. So it gives here really the root cause of the despondency of Srila Vyasadeva. We will see in the 7th canto of the Bhagavatam, after Lord Nrsimhadev has been pacified by Prahlad Maharaj, then Lord Nrsimhadev wants to give a boon to Prahlad Maharaj. And he said, whatever you want, please just tell it, I will give it to you. And then Prahlad Maharaj said, I feel completely satisfied, because you are my eternal master. I'm your eternal servant. And by serving in that relationship, it's nothing that I want. I'm completely satisfied. And this is an indication that this serving with devotion of the Supreme Personality of God, directing all one's activities, not being inactive, but doing all one's activities for the pleasure of Krishna, that is the cause of dissatisfaction. There is no much plan making in devotional service. It's just the devotional service itself is the goal. It's the means and the goal at the same time. That it's the means because in the beginning we are not purified and we don't feel that great satisfaction. Although even in the beginning devotional service is so strong that you will feel satisfied. Of course, ecstasy and love of God, these are higher levels. But in that sense, the Supreme Lord, he says, or the devotee, the pure devotee, he thinks, I feel just satisfied with that service, and there is nothing else I want. If Krishna wants me to give love of Godhead or ecstasy, I will accept that, but even ecstasy a devotee sees as an obstacle. If it's an obstacle in his service, in the execution of his service, he does not want it. He does not want liberation, he does not want. Because if one is situated with devotion, in such devotional service, always, one is beyond liberation. Liberation will serve such a person. That's another aspect. So, Narada Muni continues, although great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles, beginning with religious performances. You have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Then is Narada Muni continues, those words which do not describe the glories of the Lord, who alone can sanctify the atmosphere of the whole universe, are considered by saintly persons to be like unto a place of pilgrimage for crows. Since all perfect persons are inhabitants of the transcendental abode, they do not derive any pleasure there. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks about crows and swans. That crows, you will find them always in filthy places where they put garbage and so on. There you find crows. And swans, they like to be in parks with ponds, with lotus flowers and a beautiful atmosphere. So these are two types of birds, but they have a different taste. And so there are different kinds of men in this world, situated in different modes, and they have different tastes. And that's why Srila Vyasadeva has compiled all these Puranas and the Mahabharata. The Puranas, you have Puranas in the mode of ignorance. For those in the mode of ignorance, they will be attracted to that. And they will study that and start making advancements, go up in the modes. And then you have those for the modes of passion and those of the modes of goodness. And you have, and now Srila Vyasadeva says you have written all these scriptures in these different modes, but now you have to go to the transcendental mode, to beyond. You have to write a literature for the Paramahamsas, the Bhagavatam, and he will give me instruction how to do that now. You have like the Mahabharata. This is said, it's for the Sudras. Because the Sudras, they like to hear stories. Everyone likes to hear stories and about fight and like people in ignorance and passion, they are interested in sports and so many things in this world. So they like to hear stories. But the stories are intertwined with religious principles, and they learn this and these religious principles, and they follow these examples and they make advancements. So, because in the mode of passion and especially in the mode of goodness, the literature do more relate to the subtle body. That the crows who are in ignorance, it's literature mainly in relation to the gross body and also enjoyment in the subtle body. But the swans, they want to hear about spiritual advancement, goodness, and self-realization. That so the crows and swans are very different. And then in the next verse, it says, Narada Muni says, on the other hand, that literature which is full of descriptions of the transcendental glories of the name, of form, pastimes, etc., of the unlimited Supreme Lord is a different creation full of transcendental words directed toward bringing about the revolution in the impious lives of this world's misdirected civilization. Such transcendental literature, even though imperfectly composed, are heard, sung, and accepted by a purified man who are thoroughly honest. So, in this verse, Srila Prabhupada, he explains his mission. So, and we see that Narada Muni is giving that same mission to Srila Vyasadeva, to spread the glories of the Supreme Lord, to spread the message of this Bhagavatam, which can cause a revolution in the hearts of persons' lives. This revolution is required because at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarvadam Parityam Mamekam Saram Vacham Antam Sarva Prabhuvyam Utsayishyami Matucha. Surrender unto me, and don't worry, I take care of all your reactions. But then, how to surrender to the Supreme Personality of God, and how to do that, that's explained in the Bhagavatam. Therefore, we have, because to fully surrender, you must purify your heart. And the Bhagavatam is causing this transformation of heart. Nastavyas about this Nitya Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavata Tamasya Bhakti Naistri. By daily attendance, by regular attendance, on daily attendance of the Bhagavatam class, all of these troublesome to the heart is nearly completely destroyed. That means that it means that it roots out this ignorance and this passion, and one comes situated in goodness. But even goodness in this world is never pure. There's always some things of passion or ignorance. Therefore, it's a nearly pure. That just by this Bhagavatam, therefore Srila Prabhupada uses this verse to tell us in his purport, yes, there is an urgency to spread this message, give this message to others, that because everyone is suffering in this world, and it's going to alleviate their suffering and bring them to the platform of Paramahamsas. And we should all cooperate with each other to spread this message by book distribution, by programs, by so many, and spread this Bhagavatam. But in order to do that, preaching means purity of heart. We have ourselves to follow these instructions that Srila Prabhupada gives us, and daily read the Bhagavatam and attend Bhagavatam classes, and help with spreading this message. That's even in the 10th, up to the 10th canto, we will see that the gopis, in the Rasa dance, they say to Krishna, Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavetitam kalmasapaham shyavnamangalam shimata tatam bhuvijinnati yevu vidakhyana bhuvidakhyana. The Bhurijans, those who are the most magnanimous persons, they spread this message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and give it to everyone. They are traveling all over the world to spread
spread them, like Narada Muni is described here. Because Srila Vyasadeva glorified it. We are traveling on all material and spiritual worlds. That's real liberation. You can go wherever you want. Now we are just confined to this little shell of this planet, and you cannot go out of it. And even if one can go out it and reach other planets, what are you going to do there? The same thing, suffer and die. But this opens the way to self-realization and attain our spiritual nature and return to the spiritual world. That in the beginning, Srila Prabhupada said this Bhagavatam, he may not have real taste for the Bhagavatam. But it's like one who suffers from jaundice, then the remedy is to take sugar. And in the beginning, the sugar tastes bitter. But if you continue taking it becomes sweet, very sweet. That sweetness of the Bhagavatam will speak later when we speak about the 3 first verses of the Bhagavatam. And then we have the verse of today, we started with, where Narada Muni says, yes, this specific knowledge and fruitive work, speculative knowledge, jnana and fruitive knowledge cannot lead one to the goal of perfection. It's only fruitful when it's made subservient to the devotional service of the Lord. It means that knowledge is meant to bring us to that platform of devotional service to the Lord. And knowledge is helpful. We can understand by knowledge we are not this body. And we can understand the glories of the Supreme Personality of God, which will us it inspires to serve Him. So speculative, because all this knowledge in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about, one must work without being attached to his duty, without being attached to the fruits of his work. That is this nice karmyam which he is speaking of. That being, because by acting in such way, one becomes free from reactions, and then one gets knowledge. It's a sacrifice which brings us to knowledge. One starts to understand I'm not a body, and then one starts a little to realize that, then, well, oh yes, I don't have to work for the body, so it's temporary, so one becomes renounced. But then that's all good. One comes to that platform, I'm renounced, but still this knowledge is useless if this renunciation is not going to lead us to performing devotional service. Performing devotional service to the Supreme Personality of God. That's also explained in another verse of the Bhagavatam. If this work out of duty is not bringing one to knowledge, if this knowledge does not bring one to renunciation, and if this knowledge does not bring one to devotional service, all one's endeavor is just shama eva, just useless labor. And that's one of the points made here. So, therefore, engagements for sense gratification are only an acute source of trouble. And then Narada Muni continues that Vyasadeva, your vision is completely perfect. Your good fame is spotless. You are firm, involved, and situated in truthfulness. And thus you can link the pastimes of the Lord in trance for the liberation of the people in general from all material bondage. So, like sages like Srila Vyasadeva or Narada Muni, they can supply the people in general with unlimited news of the spiritual world. We heard a lecture in the Garden, and Srila Prabhupada is saying there, yes, in this material world you have so many, in this world you have so many countries and cities, and in every city you have newspapers, and they give so much news of all trivial things, what's happening in this world and in this city and so on. And you have new newspapers in every city, all over the world. But in this universe, you have so many planets, we have all habited, so much news, and then this is only one universe. There are so many universes, but then all these material universes together, it's just a small part of the kingdom of God. 3/4 of the kingdom of God is Vaikuntha, and there you have practically unlimited spiritual planets. How much news should we be able to give from the spiritual world? It's much bigger than that. So, because the Bhagavad Gita is a spoken message of the Lord Himself, recorded by Vyasadeva. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is a transcendental narration of the activities of the same Lord Krishna, which alone can satisfy the hankering desires of the living entity for eternal peace and liberation from misery. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord can only be described by liberated souls. So here it says, we have to hear these pastimes of the Lord from the Bhagavatam, but not from everyone. The speaker must be qualified, and the hearer must be qualified. That will be explained further in one of the next lessons when we go into the 6th question of the sages. That these qualifications should be there, because this Srimad Bhagavatam is a scripture for the Paramahamsas, and only those who are pure in heart, they can convey this message and change the heart of the hearer. This purity in heart is very important. According to the speaker's purity in heart, it will affect the heart of the hearer. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, purity is the force for the preaching. So, in the next verse, whatever you desire to describe that is separate in vision from the Lord simply reacts with different forms, names, and results to agitate the mind as the wind agitates a boat which has no resting place. So, everything what we hear or experience, which is separate in vision to the Lord, is not related to the Lord, which we do not connect with the Lord. It's just agitation of the mind. You see, the devotees, person becomes a devotee, and he starts reading the Bhagavatam, and he has his Bhagavad Gita, and all his previous literatures, he throws it out, no taste anymore. And he knows, he understands, he realizes, this is just agitation for the mind. We go on the internet, the news, and it's all agitation of the mind. It's so dangerous. This age is, we have progressed 200% into making more people more restless and bring them in more in anxiety just by this internet. It's amazing. That, of course, it can also be used in devotional service. That's another aspect. So people become disturbed about finding the real path of self-realization. they don't see anymore that if you put water on the root of a tree, then the whole tree is satisfied and becomes nourished. That like we give that's food to the stomach, the whole body becomes. You have direct experience. Meal, devotional service gives direct experience of the Supreme Personality of God. And one feels satisfied and free from suffering. That's an effect of devotional service. But if one engages one's mind in all the problems of this world, it will just agitate. That it will make one restless. And that's the situation of the people in Kali Yuga, and Sutta Goswami starts to explain that in the beginning of the Bhagavatam. Nalpayusa Sabya Kalpasmin Shrechinamanasamanamatiramana Bhagavatam. This age, one is always disturbed, unlucky, lazy, full of anxiety. That's now. Srila Vyasadeva continues, the people in general are not really inclined to enjoy. And you have encouraged them in that way in the name of religion. This is fairly condemned and is quite unreasonable, because they are guided under your instructions. They will accept such activities in the name of religion and hardly care for any prohibitions. So, in the natural form of life as human beings, we have naturally this inclination, this by practice, to endeavor to lord over the material energy. So people who are becoming deeply absorbed in this sense gratification business, they lose the responsibility for human life. They become irresponsible. They don't see that my actions will cause reactions. They don't care for that anymore. They think they are free to do whatever and enjoy, like God in France. As good as God in France. That's proverb they use in France. Okay, then next verse. So Narada Muni condemns here Srila Vyasadeva's compromising spirit. That he has in fact made a mixture. He presents the transcendental subjects along with material topics. And Narada Muni advises here Srila Vyasadeva, now you should directly address the problem, not confuse people anymore, but explain them the prime necessity of life, which is to realize one's eternal relationship with the Lord and to surrender to Him without any delay. That was in the next verse. Then Srila Vyasadeva will explain him what to do. That Supreme Lord is unlimited. Only a very expert personality retired from the activities of material happiness deserves to understand his knowledge of spiritual values. Therefore, those who are not well situated due to material attachment should be shown the way to transcendental realization by our goodness, through descriptions of the transcendental activities of the Supreme Lord. So, I will now summarize what we went through today. That first thing we discussed is that Brahman realization, or just becoming free from the duality of this world, that will not give one satisfaction. What really satisfies the soul is not just to get rid of the material problem and become peaceful. No, the soul needs love, pity, love, and that we can develop by developing our relationship with Krishna. Yes. By direct perception of Bhagavan, who appears as Paramatma in very other kinds of forms. And this is the highest liberation. It is real liberation. Because one attains Brahman realization, is just got rid from the material problem, but has not attained the spiritual form yet. So, yeah, the spiritual form. And that develops only or manifests again through the devotional service. So, therefore, Narada Muni has addressed the root cause of Vyasadev's despondency. He says, you have not actually broadcast the sublime and the spotless glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why? And that was the verse we started with, this nice karyam, spiritual realization and freedom from fruitive work. And Niranjanam, becoming free from designations, that's not the kind of self-realization we have to go further, because it's devoid of love of God. Yes. And then it says, only devotional service is a valuable process. Everything is condemned. Karma kanda, jnana kanda. It's condemned. Because why this karma kanda and jnana kanda it may counteract your reactions, your sinful reactions, and you become free from the reactions, but your heart will not be transformed. Transformation of the heart means changing one's desire. From the desire, we have to go from the desire to enjoy this world to the desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Change our desires. And that is only done by bhakti. That will be explained at the beginning also of the sixth canto. Because there, at the end of the fifth canto, there we have Maharaj Pariksit had just heard from from Sukadev Goswami, the descriptions of all these planetary systems, and the fifth canto ends with description of the hellish planets. And Maharaj Pariksit, being a devotee, feels this compassion in his heart. And why must all these living entities suffer so much? And he's asking the question. So he's bringing the question before his spiritual master, and he's asking, how can they avoid going to these hellish planets? And then then Sukadev Goswami answers in a way of testing his disciple. He's saying, if they just counteract their sinful reactions with doing penances and austerities, then they don't have to go to these hellish planets. And then Maharaj Pariksit, he does something extraordinary. He says to his spiritual master, I cannot accept this. I cannot not accept your answer, because I see persons who are performing sinful activities and then they stop and they do penances and austerities, they become purified, but after they become purified, they are doing the same thing again. So it's not working, he says. And then Shukadev Goswami said, yes, very intelligent comment. He says it's like a bamboo forest. In a bamboo forest, you have you cut all the bamboos up just under the root. So all the bamboo is removed from the forest, and you have only roots. That is this point of attaining liberation. We get rid of the material body, of the material problem. But then rain comes, and again the bamboo starts to grow. So if we don't change our desire, we are going to make that we continue with material existence. The desires will change, and not change by this process of bhakti, by hearing this Bhagavatam meant for the Paramahamsas. So he condemns this karma, kanda, and jnana kanda. So, and then the final instructions of Narada Muni, it says to Srila Vyasadeva, you must now compile this Bhagavatam. Please think of the Lord in past, and fix your mind on the Lord's pastimes in trance. And then you can write a Bhagavatam and help everyone to become liberated. So that's the essence of this section today. It's 8:30 already, but if there is any question. Comment? Yes.
So that desires are changed by bhakti. Can you expand on that a bit more? Like how do you change your desires?
Yeah. So the point is, how do we change our desires in bhakti? This is explained by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. He explains that in the 12th chapter. It says, 12:8, Mayeva man adat svama ibutim niveshya nivasya shmami van atavuttvana sanyaya. Just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me, thus you will live in me always without a doubt. So that's the process of bhakti. But it's simple. You think always of Krishna. You think always of Krishna and never forget it. But then if you cannot do that, why can't we do that? Because we don't have the desire to serve. So that's the problem. And in the next verse, Krishna says, if you have that problem, what to do? It says, Atashtam samadatum nasima ishtiram avyasa yoganatano tato mami chaptum dananja. My dear Arjun, winner of God, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulated principles of Bhakti Yoga. Perform sadhana bhakti. That's what we do, Vaida sadhana bhakti. And how to do that, we are discussing in Nectar of Devotion from the 2nd chapter till the 14th chapter. We have 64 regulated ways or rules in sadhana bhakti, Vaida sadhana bhakti. And gradually that will bring us to change our desire to this practice. And will bring us one day to do it spontaneous. Spontaneous. So that's what Krishna says about that. So, thank you very much. Chandra Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.